Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Chad.
Welcome.
It's good to be here. Always good to visit with you. Our collaboration continues to build on what we've worked on together in the past. And this will be a
Mhm.
very interesting presentation that kind of started out with the free-flowing thought behind it because you and I both have experienced a lot of synchronicities since we've been working together and known each other, and that's happened with other people we work with as well, like Adam. And so we decided to have a conversation on synchronicities, and then I got pulled into putting together a whole presentation because it immediately started to go deeper and get more interesting and pull in other information. And so this conversation is going to be on synchronicities and holograms.
Say, I have a certain thought. At the same time, something else, quite independently, happens that portrays just that thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of a red car, and at that moment, a red car comes here. You see? Yes. Now, I hadn't seen it. It was impossible because it was behind the building. In this moment, the red car appears. We can't say, now this car has appeared because here was, some remarks have been made about the red car.
Yeah. It's not cause and effect.
Oh, this is a miracle that the red car appears. It's not, it is chance.
Yes.
Just chance. But these chances happen more often than chance allows.
Yes.
And that shows that there is something behind.
And it's all definitely connected to everything that we've been working on. And it's going to take us further down the rabbit hole. But I think by the end of this presentation, some of the things that we've done together and separately will start to make more sense. And so we're going to cover a lot of ground in this. And I don't want to go too much more into that right now because it will be clear as we go through this presentation. Anything you want to add to that, Chad?
No, just that obviously, as you said, our journey from the start's been quite, well, it's just been full of synchronicity, hasn't it? And it continues to be so. Life's kind of wonderful because of that reason, I find as well. These grand meetings, all the people that you meet and you network with, and all the realizations that you come to, all these connections that you make across the years, across time and space. It just seems it's quite beautiful, isn't it? So I'm just glad to be on this journey with you, Michelle, really. The synchronicities just keep coming hard in weird and wonderful ways. Yeah.
They do. And we'll be talking about that in depth, actually.
Yeah.
And, I'm not clairaudient. I don't hear things. I'm not clairvoyant. I don't see things. I'm very intuitive. And if you were to ask me what my superpower was, I would say it's being in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people. And that's been the case my whole life. But it was only within the last 15 years or so that I really started to realize there was something more going on. And synchronicities are like coincidences on steroids.
What a coincidence.
And there's some kind of communication that's going on with us from the other side. It's like a spiritual communication.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful and wonderful. And when you start tuning into them and acting on them, looking for the deeper meaning, invariably there's one there. And again, we're going to give some examples of that today. But I had synchronicities happen my entire life. And because I don't hear things and don't see things as a form of spiritual communication, I was middle-aged before I started realizing there was something more significant happening. And synchronicities that I had throughout my whole life led me into doing this work. And I shared with you when we were putting this information together and starting to talk about doing this, that I was like 1 minute away from unplugging my phone when the man that I married, who was a retired Army sergeant, we had met in Germany and went our separate ways, called me. Like, I was moving to a different room. I just sat down to take a rest. I was gonna just do that and unplug the phone and leave the empty room, and the phone rang, and we stayed connected and got married. And I started on the path that brought me to doing this work. And it was like a minute away from not happening. And that's just one example. And that was before I was awake and conscious of any of this. And so with that being said, I'm just going to, open up to some synchronicities. If you want to talk about anything that comes to your mind, Chad.
Obviously, the great thing about synchronicity, isn't it, that everyone has it. It's almost like it's almost like builds a path for us. And when you look back, that it's like checkpoints, and you get these glimpses into this higher awareness. But when you try to think of these synchronicities, it's hard to come to realize them, isn't it? But at the same time, I've had them all my life, Michelle. Like, I don't know if it's a synchronicity or not, but one of the things that led, people saw my nan on my YouTube channel. My nan's a lovely woman. Her mom died on her birthday, and all these years, it was kind of with our family that her mom died, and we celebrated the day after and everything. And obviously, my nan brought me up since a very young age. I kind of lived with my nan, and I still do look after her now. And my mom died on my birthday, and I just it's wonderfully, horribly beautiful, everything at the same time, isn't it? That this person that I've loved all my life and loved me, we share this same kind of synchronicity, or this fate, or this and you couldn't write it, could you? Like, some of these things that happen, you feel like, well, someone is writing and it's good, but that's but yeah. And that's definitely one that connects me and my nan, which we didn't know at the time, but obviously, like a beautiful synchronistic thing that maybe she could never relate to anyone to speak to it about, but then the person that she brought up and looked after, she can relate, I can relate, and there's this beautiful, it's actually beautiful because we can relate to each other with it, you know what I mean? And we aren't alone with it. It's good.
And I know you did a beautiful video called The Unexpected Gift, and that's how you got Bella on during that time with your mom.
Yeah.
Beautiful video.
Yeah.
Highly recommend
Beautiful.
it. So you sent me some synchronicities when we were getting ready for this, and I picked two that I could find a corollary that was very similar. And one was that you took Jeff to an appointment on September 11th of 2023, and something happened when you were in the waiting room, and that brought to mind something that I had that happened that was very similar. So that one was about the man and the woman that came into the room, and you got up and let them sit down.
Yeah, so I took Nan to an appointment at the hospital, and there was not many seats. It's always rammed in the UK hospital these days. And there was an old couple that come in, and I let them take my seat. And then it was I think it was the day after, or a few days after, I went to the hospital on another appointment, and the woman recognised me for giving up my seat for her parents. And then she was equally nice back because of that, and it was just beautiful, that little give. There was something back. I don't know. I think the woman got us in extra quick as well because of that. We kind of got pushed to the head of the queue.
So this is a complete stranger, coming from different places in time and space on both occasions, and yet you came and crossed paths at the same space. And what that brought to mind for me was that sometime around 2014 or 2015, I took to my mom to the lab for some blood work after a doctor's appointment. And there was a very unhappy young child trying to get her mother's attention, and her mother was on the phone with someone. And it was just not pleasant to be there in the same waiting room with them. I mean, I just wanted to get up and leave because it was so nerve-wracking. And what was really weird was after Mom was done, we went to Walmart, and we ended up in this exact same aisle as the woman with the child at Walmart at the same time. Same place and time. And I started calling that the Walmart effect, because to this day, if I pay any attention to anyone in a store or where, if I'm out, invariably I'll see them again. and actually what we're going to talk about today can provide an explanation for how this could even be possible. So another example that you gave was putting up a post about some friends of yours that helped you, and you used a picture. The picture was hocus pocus.
Yeah. It's almost what you were just saying about the Walmart effect. I feel everyone will have this. When you start paying attention and you're focusing, it happens so much. I'll think of a friend in my head, and I'll be like, the next day or a few days after, Michelle, you end up seeing them. It's like you call on them or you manifest them into reality. It's absolutely crazy. But when I first started the YouTube, I had various people come to me, and there was 3 people in particular, and I used to joke about them being like the 3 witches from Hocus Pocus. And I put a post up on YouTube about them, and literally, I think again a few weeks later or something like that, it got announced that Hocus Pocus was being remade. Oh, this is crazy, isn't it? It's like you get these glimpses of the future before they come in. What I call them is called a backwards flow of time, and I've always called it that for some reason. It's like not only can you feel it as well. A lot of bad things that's happened in my life, I've often felt it before, and it sounds a bit mad, but you have a sensation run through your body, and good, it can be good or bad. And it's like it's this thing that's coming, but it's not there. And it feels the same with this. It's like you get this backward flow, a glimpse in, and it can work either way, can't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And another example that you sent was being messaged about The Mist, the Stephen King movie, and she watched it the first time the day after.
Yeah.
The day after a big fog hit the United States.
Yeah, this is it. My friend Erica watched the Mist by Stephen King for the first time, and then the day after, that big mist hit over in America.
I'm so aware that this is coming from an egotistical place right now, but we are creators of this very realm. I think some of us more so than others. But what you've experienced happens in every avenue of my life. I'll mention something, the next thing you know, it happens. I'll think of something, next thing you know, it happens. I'll want something to come out, it does. I'll say something to digest, the next day it happens. All the stuff I've been doing with Michelle about cotton tree, all the trees in the world, as we seem to be doing them, they seem to be getting took down.
They're beautifully strange things,
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting. As I said, it's like coincidence on steroids.
Yeah.
And what brought the experience that brought to my mind was in 2006. I had just moved back to Fairbanks, Alaska. I lived there the second time from 2006 to 2012. The first time was 1994 to 1999. And first time was with my husband. He passed away on December 1st he passed away tomorrow in 2001. So 23 years ago. And then I moved back in 2006. It's a long story. But after I moved back to Fairbanks as a single widowed person, I rented the time travel romance movie Somewhere in Time to watch at home. And that was back when they had movie rental stores. I don't think they have those anymore. As I was watching the movie, I realized the date of the time travel in the movie was on June 27th, which was the same date I was watching it. Didn't know anything really about the movie. It was just randomly picked out. Wanted something mindless to watch. And I wasn't aware of that right away. And then as I'm watching the movie, and I think the date was repeated a couple times, I'm like, wait a minute, that's today. So things like that.
It's enough to blow your mind at the time, isn't it? It's just like, wow. And I think a lot of people discredit them, but you're going to end up having to discredit so much, aren't you? And I think people do yeah. But if you were to knock up all them old yes, there's a lot of them, aren't there? And some of them are substantial. It's beautiful.
And that's really a good lead in to what got us talking about doing synchronicities for this talk. And we had a conversation. This was back around the beginning of October, like around October 8th. Which there's kind of an interesting synchronicity in there with me, because that was right when my mom fell and broke her shoulder that day. And it was when that big hurricane was going to be hitting that part of Florida, Hurricane Milton. And actually have a tie-in to that later in this presentation. But that was the same time that was going on. And we talked about certain things in that call together. And then you sent me an email, and you told me about this dream that you had. And you sent me a series of photographs related to it. Mm-hmm. So do you remember the dream well enough to relate it, or do you want me to read the email because I have it right here?
Yeah. It was a dream where I was in the street. It was like a normal street within the town, like a busy town, and it was on next to a road, and it was one of those, a lucid dream almost, the real ones where you kind of awake. And I found an object in my hand, and it was like a spyglass almost, like a little glass. And it wasn't big. And obviously everything was going on in the street, cars driving past people and people walking. And then I could tell that this was meant to connect up to your eye. So I put it to my eye. And when I put that spyglass somewhere, I could see things that weren't there. It gave me a vision passed into what was clear to the common eye. And I was so shocked and unbelievable, I could feel it. So I started running around and giving it to people putting it in front of their eye, and they could see what was going on as well. But I remember obviously telling you about it, but quite a few months ago, I had sent you a video which I made, which I haven't put out. It was about the Spiderwick Chronicles, wasn't it? And they had it. I think it was similar. That was to do with the Crowley again, wasn't it? That was researching with the megalith, the stone, and the hole. And when they looked through it, they could see past beyond.
I've seen that before.
In one of his books, and I'm not sure which one, it might have been Synchronicity and the Seventh Seal, Peter mentioned that on the day of the Philadelphia experiment, Crowley passed his baby son through the circular megalith at Menontoll in Morva, Cornwall. And that when he did this, it caused a line of energy to cross the ocean. I have encountered the date of July 22nd of 1942 for the original Philadelphia experiment, but there are conflicting dates given for this, including doubt that it ever took place.
And isn't that interesting? Now, although the rock is different in terms of visual, it is still very, very similar. And what Michelle was ultimately talking about on the video was in relation to the Earth's grid, the energy, and how that can be manipulated and cause destruction through bringing forth energy and power. Interestingly, we find this exact same rock in the series, However, this rock is used to see beyond this realm, to see into the unseen, to see into the other side.
Here. No, there's got to be something here.
And what Michelle was talking about in regard to Aleister Crowley and that rock in particular, think of how Aleister Crowley performed all his rituals for many reasons and causes, but one of those, to talk to the other side, to demons, to angels, to mystical creatures. And ultimately that's exactly what the Spiderwick Chronicles is showing. Let's take a further look.
Simon, come here. The stone is the key.
The stone is the key. And stone, as we know, is an anagram of notes, bringing us back to music, vibration and frequency. So there is a hole in the stone. How else could this be read? A hole in the notes. Hole can be spelt another way. When we had a W at the beginning, it's a hole in the notes. And whole notes are an actual thing. A whole note is an oval shaped note with a hole in its centre.
The whole note. The whole note looks like a circle with an empty note head and must be held for 4 beats. We are going to assign a name to the whole note when performing rhythms. Since the whole note gets 4 beats, we will give it the name ta-ah-ah.
So again, with this stone, which is an anagram of notes, we are brought back to frequency, vibration and sound, and the power of that, how it can heal or how it can destroy, how it can help transmute, how it can lift us or lower us to be able to see and interact with other things. Ultimately, everything is down to vibration and frequency. Our worlds are dependent on it. Dependent on the vibration and frequency depends on how we see and interpret the world. Even further to this, the same stone that Michelle found related to Aleister Crowley, and the same stone which I found in the Spiderwick Chronicles, is used in the movie Excalibur when Merlin performs a magical rite, again reminding me of the beats, of the vibration of the frequency, of the whole note, which is generally broke up into 4 beats. Da, 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 da. With the da, 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 or the 4 beats reminding us of magical formulas, spells, spelling. Even in relation to the Bohemian clubs and the Bohemian groves, music, as we know, plays a huge part with the vibration and frequencies of the singing and drums. With all this said, I think it can be concluded, as we all know, that sound, frequency and vibration play a huge role in the creation and destruction of all things on earth. Something magicians have known and practiced for a long time has been kept out of our grasp. We understand the power of vibration and sound and the words we use, how music influences, how frequency can influence, manipulate and change. But still, to its fullest extent, these things, rather than give to us, are used against us.
But when I've got it, obviously there's lots of meanings to dreams. I thought about clear vision being like more so of a metaphor, you know, like being able to see what other people can't, and then maybe being able to spread. That's I like clear sight, true vision, being able to see things beyond or sense that and then show other people. But then it got strange, didn't it? Like, so so I sent Michelle this photo on the screen now of this glass, because that's what it looked like. It was similar to that. Like when I searched it online, I knew it was almost a spyglass. And then I went out. I took Nan shopping on the morning to Merrill, and I was looking at the games, and there's like a trivial section, and there was this. It was literally that Harry Potter board game with the glasses, and I thought it was just almost it linked to the dream that well, to have dreamt about some glasses that looked beyond, and then I saw those glasses that was similar. So that was amazing. And then I remember you, what did you say exactly about the okay? What was you saying?
So I had been surprised by somebody that responded to me leaving that emoji that on every phone, and my whole life that has meant okay or a-okay or everything's good. And so I did that emoji in response to a comment that I agreed with, and the person thought I was flashing a Masonic hand sign, and just read something into it that was not there. That never even crossed my mind. And so I shared that with Chad. And this was what he saw when he went into that store after the morning after the dream.
Yeah.
And sent me a picture of it.
I thought, Michelle, you've come through here. I literally saw the hand and the okay. What's the chances of seeing it both at the same time as well? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, I think the universe has a sense of humor. That's happened to me a couple of times where it was just in its own way kind of funny. But so just to get it out there, for the vast majority of the population, including myself, that means okay.
Yes.
So I do understand that it's used in a negative way, and we're actually going to be covering inversions quite a bit in this presentation, inversions and reversals. So what is innocuous or meant for good has just been completely turned on its head in this system that we're living in. So so I get this email from Chad, and he had sent me the Spiderwick video that he's talked about. You had already addressed the subject of the dream that you had about a device that allowed you to see things differently, or see things that would otherwise you would not be able to see. And that was one of your points in sending me the email, was like, hey, Michelle, this could be a metaphor for the work that we're doing, to show people something that they would not otherwise see. And I think it's very fitting and important in this evolving collaboration that we have, that I would call a synchronistic co-creative partnership that we share with other people like Adam, because he's done great work in this whole subject matter. And then I do want to go ahead and play this one here, Chad, because it kind of links into to this. So in the fall, earlier this year, Chad was sending me some videos. This one is more recent than the Spiderwick video. And this was right before he started in the series of reversing the images, which is, or mirroring the images and showing what was there, which we will be getting into as well here. But this was an early video that you did prior to that series on mirroring. So I'm going to go ahead and play this because it ties into what we're going to talk about next.
That's it. So I did it so you see how I'd made it. It's literally just duplicating it, mirroring. It's being dragged from one point to the other. Everything makes this, by the way. So when I did the mirroring video, I could have took it from two angles. There was the demonic looking figure that seemed to appear everywhere, or there was a Torus field, a Torus as such, and it is in all of it. So it shows much. It depends which things you want to focus on, but that is in absolutely everything as well when you mirror. The Eye of Ra mirrored, essentially, the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, if you want to look at it that way, combined is the Torus. So the Ra and Horus is the Torus. It's the Torus field. The two sides combine, create the one. That's what I was kind of seeing and finding. This all happens in the mind. It's like this gets shown to me, and then I can recreate it. It's weird. It's beautiful and weird. I don't know. It's really hard to create it sometimes. Obviously, I do the best I can, but yeah, interesting concept. The eye of the Taurus rather than the eye of Ra or Horus when combined.
This is how our synchronistic co-creation, collaboration is building with respect to the work that you and I have done, and then the work that you and I and Adam have done, which is a work in progress also, because there's more to contribute about each of our different areas of research on this subject, and it all works together, and it's all synchronistic. So
100%.
Breakthroughs all the time. Okay, so when you sent me that unpublished video, I thought of the double dorja, which is a Tibetan object used in meditation. And if I'm remembering correctly, it has something to do with lightning or thunderbolt, something like that. Okay. We both share interest in Tibetan Buddhism, come to find out. And I was never a very good practitioner of it, but I was very interested in it.
Me too.
And we've both seen the Yogis of Tibet. I send you a list of movies. Hey, you should watch this, and you're like, I already saw it. I've got a video about it on my channel. Conversations with Remarkable Men, or something along those lines. That's another one that we've both seen separately from each other, which is very interesting, about Gurdjieff. And then another one was it was a series of films. One of them is called Baraka. Another one's called Koyani Katsi. And the scene that I had in mind with the scene of the Kaaba, which you've done an art video on the Kaaba, something very similar in this movie. And I think the Kaaba is connected to this, which we talked about with Adam in our second talk together, the destruction, exploitation, and reverse engineering of the Earth's original energy grid system. That what we're going to talk about today is kind of building on these things that we've talked about before. It's just like the clues and the pictures. The clues are coming together, and the pictures starting to come into focus about reverse engineering of the grid and how this happened and what happened and how did we get here to this crazy upside down Orwellian world. You think you're reading 1984 and it's a book of fiction, and all of a sudden we're living it, and it's like, whoa. Hold up, what's that all about? And so with that, I want to lead into the whole subject of holograms and something that connected you and I early on in our collaborative work together, which was your prompting to do the sports circuit, which was prompted in part by my work on Circuit Board Earth, and you just took that to a whole new level with the first sports circuit. And then things that came out of the first sports circuit led to the Squatterman sports circuit part of that series. And talking about the idea of a figure called Squatterman, which is also called Stickman, which is the same as the electrical discharge, plasma discharge. It's seen in rock art all over the world, and is a replicable figure that shows up. And one of the things I thought interesting about this figure was that looks like the double dorja. this representation of it. You see different representations of it, like these. And so there's, you know, a lot of work done on the idea of this plasma discharge, the electric universe, and that whole concept. But I see this also as like a hologram of us and this universe, how we're constructed. And my knowledge of a lot of these things is kind of surface level. It's information I've been exposed to in the past on my journey of doing this work. So I have a superficial understanding of it. But like I said at the beginning, I'm very intuitive, and that's a big part of how I get ideas, how I do research, and what comes out of that. It's just a lot of intuition guiding me along. And so when Chad was finishing up the part 1 of Sports Circuit, Squatterman came out of that. And then when you did the second part, you started talking about primer fields, which is something that I had been introduced to.
Yeah.
Or, you know, where you see the same shape.
Mm-hmm.
And how this actually works. So can you elaborate on that from what I just said?
Yeah, I agree, Michelle. Like to me, I speak about the like micro, macro a lot, don't I? How things are just so people might say like fractals, and how things can be replicated down and upward. So, you know, that shape, I'm sure in some videos I've shown how that shape is in everyday objects as well, like the chalice and different things. So like it's things that we worship and so why these objects would be sacred is because it's dual in so many ways. But the main reason would be is what they're symbolizing, and that would be the symbolization of creation itself, or what we're in. So that is what do you know what I mean? So it's like it's that hidden in plain sight again. We'll see a golden chalice on top of the thing, and it's not what people think. It's the chalice is showing that. The chalice is showing, you know, a lot more. And it's like that with so many things, you know. That's how I've seen it anyway since we've been doing the work, and I've saw it replicated across so much. Even children's objects, you know, that there, you know, at the circus. There was I've done an art video, I'm gonna have to put it in here. It's kind of cool.
Okay, just remade this supercell unit. Sorry about that. Here you can actually see one quote-unquote pole of the magnet. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate and tilt. I'll hold it in one spot even though it's a weak magnet. Rotate and tilt the supercell, and keeping the magnet in place. Here you can see the toroidal or donut-shaped formation of the constructive and destructive interference. You'll actually see bright little spots at the intersection points, like little stars or little gems on a necklace.
loves a slinky. You gotta get a slinky, slinky, slinky. Go, slinky, go!
Oh, man! Can you believe it?
They spin it, so that spins. And what's cool, when it spins, it almost like replicates this movement of a sphere, you know, like because it's moving. Do you know what I'm on about? If you saw it, the trick with the rope, it's like a rope, and
yeah, and so this is us also. I mean, this is how.
Yes.
It's all constructed.
Yes, this is us.
Everything's constructed.
This is the tree. This is us. This is the human. You know, it's everything, isn't it? It's the lot.
So if you look into it, it has to do with magnetic fields and, you know, electricity and how it all works together. And if you show Chad the video that you showed in Squatterman to show how this all works together.
The fields shown around the green photon are electromagnetic fields of opposite polarity, with the red field being of north magnetic orientation and the blue field being of south magnetic orientation. It will be proven that this is actually the way that magnetic fields are structured around all matter. This applies from the smallest particles we have discovered to the largest structures in space. If you were to measure these fields with a compass, their magnetic fields would appear identical to the magnetic fields of a bar magnet. This also means that when we measured the magnetic fields of matter with other methods in the lab, we also assumed that matter had a bar magnet type of magnetic field. But this assumption was a mistake. So until now, we have incorrectly assumed that electrons and other matter have a magnetic field shape as shown in this drawing. But we must realize that the fields around an electron, as well as around all other matter, are actually two opposing bowl-shaped electromagnetic fields. Unless we properly understand this basic magnetic field structure, we will never be able to properly understand the fundamental forces of matter from the subatomic to the galactic. I believe that this magnetic field structure is an intrinsic property of all matter. Therefore, you cannot have a particle of matter unless these magnetic fields are there to form it and confine it. To further understand these magnetic fields and validate this new theory, hundreds of experiments were conducted utilizing a vacuum chamber and specially constructed bowl-shaped magnetic field emitters. When 70,000 volts of electricity is applied, the plasma formations that you are now seeing appear. A variety of purging gases were used in these experiments. This includes ordinary air, argon, hydrogen, and helium. The spacing and orientation of the magnetic field emitters were varied in many ways as well. The magnetic field emitters were suspended on non-conductive, high-strength microfilament line attached to magnetic supports on the inner surface of the vacuum chamber. Then, to hold these supports in place, high-strength magnets were utilized on the outer surface of the vacuum chamber. This arrangement allows for the adjustment of the magnetic field emitters while the experiment is running. A variety of bowl-shaped magnetic field emitters were utilized in these experiments in order to reveal how changing the geometry of the field emitters affects the matter around them. As you can clearly see here, a change of magnetic field emitter geometry also results in a change in the shape of the plasma formation within the vacuum chamber. By adjusting the exposure settings on the camera, an X-shaped pattern is revealed between the magnetic field emitters that is amazingly similar to the shape of the Red Square Nebula. You can even see the bowl shape of the magnetic fields in the Red Square Nebula. I carefully studied the amazing research underway at the Large Hadron Collider, and I found a wealth of evidence for this new theory in the collisions there. In reviewing a video from CERN, I noticed something quite bizarre, and it wasn't in the data from the collisions. It was in the shape of CERN's most well-recognized building, the Globe of Science and Innovation in Geneva, Switzerland. Not only was it a bowl shape, but the design of the building also had a hole in the top of the dome, exactly as my theory would call for. So I made a magnetic scale model of the CERN dome, placed a set of them in my vacuum chamber, and fired it up. Not only did these CERN bowls form a spherical shape at the center of the reaction, but they also formed a disk of plasma around the nucleus, as well as ejection jets along the axis. The pattern has been there for centuries at the Pantheon in Rome, which has been referred to as the Vault of the Heavens. Then the required shape was also found at St. Peter's Basilica. Then one of my favorites was found at St. Paul's Cathedral in Medina, Malta. Notice the angels circling the hole at the top of the dome, and compare that to the glowing ring that is found inside the bowl-shaped magnetic field emitters in the vacuum chamber. Why are these angels on fire exactly where they should be? Much more on this dome and the others later in this series of videos. So it seems that people often want a sign from God that we are not alone. Sometimes God does give us a sign if we just pay attention.
It's all the same, so we're all connected by this. And it's when I was first exposed to David LaPointe's work, and I'm sorry I said LaPlante earlier, and that's kind of what sticks in my mind, but it's David LaPointe. You can find this work on YouTube, you know, showing the upper, you know, the red color there and the blue color and how things meet in the middle, and you know, it's pretty fascinating. And I'm starting to understand something that I'm going to go into later in this presentation, but it says the primer fields focus interstellar plasma onto a sun as a sphere of highly, what does it say? I can't read it. Concentrated plasma. The primer fields focus interstellar plasma onto a sun as a sphere of highly concentrated plasma.
Yeah.
So this is talking about the sun. And that's an important thing that I just noticed, because I'm going to talk about something else. And I was researching something quickly before our call today, and it connects to this.
So essentially, Michelle, this is life. This is life. We sit within that, don't we? We are that on a smaller scale. And that's why, as you say, the synchronicities is because we're all within that one, you know. So because we're all within that, there's got to be synchronicities. It's like that computer video that I did about how connected you are to it. We're all going to have them. We're all going to have synchronicities. It's just how aware of them you are and how in tune you are to potentially have more of them. I often, as I've said to you, see them as pointers that you say that you're on the right track. So I've never saw them negative. A lot of the time, the synchronicities I've always saw as positive, like I've almost been here and done it before, or the divine path is en route because like I'm seeing it, you know what I mean? So this is the blue and the red, isn't it? This is the division. If that is inverted, so when you invert that, what you do, you take the red and the blue, and it's like the magnets, as you've said, you create the division, the pull. So this is also replicated in society. It's replicated absolutely everywhere.
Yep.
The split.
So this is our original hologram. And you know, you see this, the Dogon in Mali, who are very, very advanced in their knowledge about things they shouldn't know anything about, like the orbit of Sirius, and there's just so much stuff. But they've got that same shape on their headdress.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Tuareg flag. The Tuareg are a people of North Africa. Same thing. And Mali's in North Africa. The Tuareg are like Algeria, Morocco, throughout there, and they're very tall people. It's a matriarchal society, very ancient people. And then when we were looking at your sports circuit video and the shape of a soccer field, you see it in that too. You see that same shape in the soccer field,
Mm-hmm.
which also looks like a battery.
Yeah. And then Michelle, just go back to the other slide, the one before this one. As you've said, the football field looks like a battery. You can look at this, it's like, them psychology pictures that can be different things. You've got, obviously, the shape as it is, but it can be multiple things as well. When we consider like a magnet, if you looked at it as two magnets and the line is the energy between the two magnets, that makes sense to our equation as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if I colored that one blue and I colored that one red, you would see a line between the red and the blue, this pull, which would effectively represent the energy between the two poles. It's beautiful to play with it, isn't it? There's so much. And it's all relative. It's all relative. Whatever's there is relative. Same with words. Whatever you find in it seems to be relative.
Yeah. And this leads to a big rabbit hole. And I think it's worthy of consideration, serious consideration, as to how we got here at this place and time with all the inherent craziness in the world today.
Mm-hmm.
So, football field in your part of the world, soccer field in my part of the world. And why do they even make a difference between it? More division, right? So looking at that and looking at your work on mirroring and some other things that we've talked about in the past with Adam and other things that bubbled up in the course of putting this together, but did they invert the hologram? And I think we can make a good case here today that they did in fact invert the hologram. And that's why you got the images when you mirrored everything. That's been imprinted on our fabric here somehow. So I want to talk a little bit first about sacred geometry and the golden ratio. The golden ratio is central in sacred geometry, and it represents a fundamental proportion found throughout nature and human creations. Phi, approximately 1.618, holds the unique ratio that conveys balance and harmony when incorporated into various geometrical forms. So, good example is the joints of your whole body. So, like with your forefinger, it follows the phi ratio, the 1.618, the way that it works. And so if you look at it like that. And that is found throughout everything. In nature, and I'm going to talk about the Fibonacci sequence here in just a moment. In geometry, a golden... Okay, so here's another example of the golden ratio hidden in the pentagram. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sacred geometry. The golden spiral in geometry is a logarithmic spiral whose growth factor is phi, the golden ratio. That is, a golden spiral gets wider or further from its origin by a factor of phi for every quarter turn that it makes. So the relationship, the golden ratio to the Fibonacci sequence, which is what's found in nature, is that the Fibonacci sequence is a numerical series starting with 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, that is formed by adding the two preceding numbers to get the next one. Interestingly enough, as we progress in the sequence and divide each number by its predecessor, the resulting quotient converges toward the golden ratio. So this unsuspecting connection between Fibonacci numbers and the divine proportion further solidifies it as being significant across various fields of study. And so you see it in the, the whorls of the galaxy and sunflowers in the Nautilus shell and in storm patterns. And again, you can see the relationship with that diagram. We are told that Leonardo da Vinci's most famous work was the Vitruvian Man, said to have been created around 1490 and first reproduced in the 1800s, describing the human figure as being the principal source of proportion among the classical orders of architecture. The Vitruvian Man, inside of the square and circle, represents the divine temple, the link between heaven and earth, the middle mesocosm that unites the microcosm with the macrocosm of our known universe, as you were saying just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Macro, micro. Any thoughts on that?
I feel like, yeah, I'm sure I've included this in videos as well. You've almost, it's the coding to the matrix, isn't it? It's the divine coding, which then gets hidden in inversion, but everything follows the same principles. Like I sent you a photo the other day where I found that hidden, didn't I, in the Titanic video.
The Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah, and it's just linked so well. I'll pull that picture up on the screen. It's the scene with the bloke, and it's called King of the World, so it fits to all of this as well, really. It's in everything. As we know, a lot of this is in our media as well, hidden. I feel like the Titanic's got a lot more to show, but I haven't got time to decode it. I know this is a completely different subject, but I was watching Home Alone the other day, and I was thinking about it, and I thought, and I did a tiny bit of research, and it turns out that Kevin is a representation of Enki. Enki, the Sumerian god, and he was mischievous, and the whole battle and everything. It's linked to so much, isn't it? All these are representations of something else that we don't really represent. So again, that'll be represented in so many things.
Keep that in mind, because we'll be circling back around to a lot of these things. So the idea of man and the cosmos, the idea that man, temple, and cosmos were identical, was the understanding upon which the entire philosophy and science of the ancient world was founded. Like, for example, as seen in this diagram of a Hindu temple in relationship to human proportions. So in the scheme of things, we're pretty important, but we don't know that. That's been removed. That's been taken outside of us. And that's why the controllers have gone to so much trouble to do what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
They know who we are. We don't know who we are.
We don't know who we are spiritually and anything like that. But even in terms of physicality, it's the most beautiful and divine creation. I'm not like being egotistical to man or anything, but it's so complete. A machine tries to replicate it, and technology tries to replicate it, and it just can't, you know, regardless of man being like its own a whole universe living inside of man himself, you know, this weird replication of macro micro again. Like, even if you don't believe that, in terms of science, you know, people out there all know how many cells you've got in your body. So just in that scale, the cells all in our body are all separate, but within one body, that larger body is us. So like, we're a god to all those cells, aren't we? So you're right, it's like this beautiful macro micro.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've been dumbed down, miseducated, misinformed, abused. All so we wouldn't know who we are and unite collectively with our collective co-creative power, which is way more powerful than anything that can be thrown at us to diminish our who we are and our innate abilities that we haven't been educated about. The only place you can find them is in the Eastern, really. Really, the blueprint about how to activate your cities and your higher powers is found in the Eastern tradition. Not that it wasn't in the West. Yeah. That's how I ended up getting interested in Tibetan Buddhism, because that's what that is. It's a blueprint for how to activate your abilities that we don't know we have. They're pretty cool, actually.
No.
It's where you get into levitation and telekinesis and bilocation and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the cities. There's a lot of them, a lot of different ones, isn't there? The thing is, there's so many cities that you wouldn't, you know, when you said if you had a superpower earlier, you've got a city, you've got a city. Just everyone always considers a superpower to fly or something like this, because they're the most popular ones, aren't they? Like, type of thing. But you know, there's a lot of superpowers out there, a lot of different cities.
Yeah.
And
you know, and I mentioned the yogis of Tibet earlier. That's what yogis are. They're people that have chosen an ascetic monastic lifestyle in most cases. I mean, I think there's different kinds of specializations within that. But
Yeah.
Generally speaking, they've chosen to become hermits. And they've done that so they can develop these powers. And so that's where you find the highest realization of these abilities is within the yogis of the East, in India and Tibet and Nepal, Bhutan, places like that. That's where this knowledge has been preserved. It's been deliberately destroyed. Libraries burned. The Library of Jaffna in Sri Lanka housed a collection of this information, and it was destroyed by a mob setting fire to it a couple of decades ago. They don't want us to know these things and have gone to great lengths to just remove it completely. Probably under the Vatican Library too, or in the Vatican Library. So I've shown this before, the diagram of the monad as being an ancient symbol of the absolute and the divine. And the word monad is found in monadnock, which are, you know, we talked before about being giant tree stumps. But they're called monadnocks and completely explainable by geological forces. But they call them monadnocks. You know, interesting that word would be in there.
Yeah.
And then not long ago, I was doing some research on I was doing some research which involved uncovering John Dee's hieroglyphic monad and the symbol for Mercury in an alchemical symbol chart. Look pretty similar, with the exception of the, this part at the top being down right above the eye, or the center dot of the symbol here, which looks like the monad. Looking rather devilish also.
Yeah.
Like horns. And Dee was a major figure in all of this. I'm still not sure who's real and who's not, but in our narrative, you can find this information. That's where I found it. During the 1582 to 1589 time period in England, around the same time as Scaliger's New Chronology, which was 1582, which was when that was introduced. 2 occultists were said to have been involved in scrying activities that ended up bringing fallen angels and other negative beings into this dimensional plane. These 2 men were John Dee, Queen Elizabeth I's court astronomer and advisor, and Edward Kelly, who was an occultist. John Dee was considered the most learned man of his time in England and had an extensive library. He also had in his possession a collection of mirrors and other scrying devices. John Dee constructed what were called sigillums or sigils for the practice of Enochian magic, a range of rituals and ceremonies designed to evoke spirits for interaction. And I'm including this subject because it's central to understanding what has taken place here. We've been experiencing an occulted timeline, and whether we like it or not, have been unknowingly subjected to unseen forces through occult practices to this day. And I really believe that the alchemy of the ancients, which was incredible and for the benefit of all, was reversed, inverted, whatever you want to call it, by the controllers for our control. So Mercury, these alchemical elements went from being positive and used for benefit to negative and used for control.
Yeah. That's the important thing to remember, isn't it? That these do have value, and that is part of the con which they've employed to keep people away from the true essence of them and the power of the trueness of behind. If people are scared of something or declare it, they don't generally look past something, and you only really get to truths when you start looking past something or through it. So, bang on, boom.
Which leads me to, going back to the golden ratio within the golden rectangle and the direction that I'm going with this, which builds on what we did when we talked with Adam in the destruction, exploitation, and reverse engineering of the Earth's original energy grid system. So we've already been talking about things, but it's like when you go back around, it starts to make more sense and tie together.
Yeah.
Months down the road from our original talk, which I think was last year, actually. So in the in-between time, we've all done a lot more research, and it's starting to make sense. And this is going to connect back to your mirroring series. And it looks like what they've done here. So I had showed this graphic in our talk with Adam, and we're getting into the Saturn moon matrix and creating a manipulated virtual reality from this graphic that I found when I was looking for something to tie what we were looking at together, which was the reversal of the intentional reversal of the grid system. And when we talked with Adam, we were looking at the anchor point of the positive Earth grid being at Coricancha in Peru, being reverse engineered to the Kaaba in Mecca, and the energy of the people going around the cube which is associated with Saturn. You know, with the question, where is our energy going? Where is our inner chi going?
Yeah.
And so from this post, from New Earth Knowledge, we have Saturn has long been associated with an assortment of blood-worshipping cults. It's the solar seventh gate. It's been used to pump out reversal violet ray plasma light, and this is the distortion that generates reversal plasmas and reversal violet light on our planet or plane. These reversal plasmas are designed to ignite and feed the demon seed that exists in the shadow selves or negative forms of the masses. So we're starting to see sacred geometry. So we've got two golden rectangles put together, which reflect divine proportion in nature when it's like one of them. Now we're getting into that, you know, the thing that you were showing with the images of the Eye of Ra and the Torus and all of that. You know, it's the same idea. It's a mirroring, it's a duplication. And what does that look like? What does that look like? So we go back to the pentagram. You know, everybody sees a pentagram, and this is what they think of. And it's, oh my God, that's evil. Just like all of the other symbols of sacred geometry that have been inverted and given a negative meaning, and people learn about that and they're like, oh my gosh, sacred geometry is so evil. It's like, no, it's not. That's the thing. That's what the guys that did this, that inverted everything, want us to believe. And it's not at all. It's the creation pattern, sacred geometry, and the flower of life that all the sacred geometric shapes come from is the pattern of creation. Yeah. But they've inverted it and given us this. It's like the satanic A-OK sign. You know,
well, what better way to do it? Like, you know, in a war. So in a war, you know, like when you hear about the old times when they used to destroy temples and faces of gods and all this. So you take their sacred geometry, you take something that, and you just stick horrible things on top of it or behind it. It's the ultimate almost mock to say, like, we've took over type of thing, or do you know what I mean? It's almost like we're this is us. Like, it's so many folds. There's so many folds to it. In terms of the war, you could definitely see it. You know, it's like the other nation getting the other people's flags and putting something silly in front of that to mock their country. Mocking of light, mocking of sacred value. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. So they've given us. Go ahead.
You know, you found that, and I hadn't done the mirroring. I didn't think at that point, nowhere near it. And that's the same imagery that you ultimately find. It seems to be like horns and a central figure. That is it.
Yeah. So, you know, which leads us to this guy, Baphomet. So this ties in with Saturn and Baphomet. And this is something I added this morning. So according to Crowley's thelemic philosophy, Saturn, the planet often associated with limitations and restrictions, is viewed as a divine androgyne, representing the balance between masculine and feminine energies, a concept crucial to achieving spiritual wholeness and understanding of true will. This is all an inversion. All of inversion. Because there's the concept of the divine feminine and divine masculine in all of us. But it's not this. This is evil. This is very evil.
You would also have the counterpart, Michelle, you know, and you can employ that, like the higher self, the lower man, higher man. There would be demons as well as gods. We've all got good and evil within us. So there's going to be like right. That's it. They want to pull on those inverted principles, not the divine masculine and feminine, the lower. masculine and feminine qualities.
Absolutely.
As the lower self. Yeah.
So I brought this in because we're looking at Saturn and the concept of the Saturn moon matrix and the connection between Saturn and Baphomet in this philosophy of Crowley's.
Yeah. AKA Satan, Saturn, Satan. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so,
thing, yeah.
Building on the idea, did they invert the hologram? And laying out an argument that yes, they did. They absolutely did. Using sacred geometry and then inverting everything from its original meaning. So that even though there are people that have an awareness of the sacred and the sacred meanings, there's a lot of people new to the information that see the negative application of it. And all of a sudden, all of that's everything associated with it's evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked about, just real quick, so we talk about Phi and in the pentagram, which is, right side up. And, doing it this way as a sigil, putting all these extra meanings on it to really give an oomph to their evil efforts. So I encountered the information a while back and it was hard to recreate it, but the information that I encountered was there have been 3 Baphomets. One was Albert Pike, and he was Baphomet in the as the sovereign grand commander of the southern jurisdiction of Freemasonry, Scottish Rite Lodge. His title was Baphomet. And he was a major player in what's taken place here.
Mm-hmm.
We find it with Crowley, and he was, even though he was a Freemason, his title of Baphomet came with the Ordo Templis Orientis as leader of that. And he had cross connections with a lot of other things, German occultists and so on and so forth. And then Henry Clausen. Well, who the hell's ever heard of Henry Clausen? If you're older, I'm too young to know who he was, but he was also, like Pike, a sovereign grand commander of the Scottish Rite, of the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite. He is best known for authoring the Clausen Report, which was connected with the doing investigation after the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th of 1941. He was tasked with investigating, I think it was like 800 pages. It ended up being 800 pages of research that was published in 1945, I want to say. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot out there about him. That was the main thing that he investigated. He was special counsel for the Secretary of War investigating the Pearl Harbor disaster. But they're taking on this title of this being. What it's called, the goat head, male, female, physically. And I'm going to share something that was sent to Adam after we did our second one on the destruction, exploitation, and reverse engineering of the Earth's original energy grid system. Somebody watched that and sent this to Adam. And it's on Crowley and the grids. So Crowley was contacted in Cairo, Egypt in 1904 by negative gray reptilian aliens, an individual known as Iwas, to begin his indoctrination to support the negative alien agenda. He was instrumental infiltrating the secret societies where he gave consciousness tools, rituals, and artifacts to the Illuminati. This began the human history of black ops, or shadow government, the military-industrial complex, which shared negative alien technology in exchange for human souls, human abduction and genetic mutation experiments. In most cases, these souls were ritualized and bound in the Thothian black magic grids to entrap them so they could be siphoned. A little bit more from this. I want to read. The Archontic deception strategy is directly to inflict sexual misery, sexual abuse, and sexual slaves on this planet, starting as early and young as possible. This was taken advantage of by the negative aliens to splinter into soul energies, rather than integrate and heal it by controlling the sexual energies. By promoting distortions around the sexual act, gender roles, and corrupting our relationship to our mother and father parent, our race descended into sexual misery and, in many cases, forms of sexual slavery and misogyny. This is known as a sexual misery program, propagated and controlled by the moon chain, or lunar lineages, of the negative alien agenda on the Earth. These are multiple layers of architecture and mind control that have been artificially created to control, deceive, separate, confuse, torture, and steal human beings' sexual life force, and it is a violation against the human soul. The main collection center for sexual misery is called the NRG Network, that is the central hub in the UK. It is designed to create psychopaths and sexual predators based on archontic deception behavior. And it's about, this also talks about how they send these reversal energies through this, which one could conclude is the Saturn moon matrix. And I'm just looking here, because you mentioned Enki. Let me see if I can find the reference to that here to see. So this is also saying that critical areas where the NAA controllers siphon human energetic consciousness power and redirect it back to their artificial machinery systems to power up phantom systems is failing in the percentage of energy collection they need to power the global mind control and other NAA harvesting systems. But it says here, the Thothian Anunnaki language is based on usurped Enochian language of the original creational God code. Excerpts of the Law of One was given to Crowley at the turn of the century in order for him to be the human embodiment of the beast that was necessary to bring this anti-life black magic language into the physical realms in order to feed the alien machinery and their reversal networks. Crowley was manipulated through his own massive ego of patriarchal superiority, greed, genetic elitism, egomaniacal selfishness, and sexual deviance to install a vast circulatory system of reversal current systems to run black magic into the ley lines on behalf of Thothian interests, including those in the Thoth, Enki, and Lo collectives.
Oh. Wow. What a summary. What you just described there at the back end was literally the movie Monsters, Inc., that the energy was running out and they needed to harvest it better, so you had to increase the screens, which was essentially energy. Which is essentially all the chaos and crap that you've seen in the world the last couple of years. That's what it would be. All that crap is to lift, is to create more emotion, to harvest our energy more. But Michelle, even I'm doing a video at the moment, and it's about alcohol, and it's the strangest find that I've found, to be honest with you, because it even links to Aleister Crowley. Like, for example, what I've seen with it is that the journey of the alcohol and drinking and going to pubs is the journey of the underworld. So it's a representation of a cycle that we're in. So it's life and death. It's the journey of Ra. It's the journey of the Sumerian gods. So essentially, we're like, when we were getting drunk at different things and we exchanged these tokens, these coins, it's all in the words. Jordan Maxwell briefly spoke about this type of thing. We're making this exchange, and when we're getting drunk, we're actually dying with a dead man. You know, and this is how we're represented as dead people in all these transactions this cycle, this machine that we're in. And it even relates, I found it, to the sports fields and the stadiums. So when we go to a sports stadium, we go to see a game, and the sea obviously is a homophone of crossing the sea. So straight away there, you've got the link to the underworld and maritime law. We're crossing the sea to go and see. When we go into a venue, we have to pass with a ticket. That's the exact same as the underworld's coin, the golden coin that you give to Charon to go on the Styx River. And what it seems to be that we're represented, I don't know if you want me to put this in or not, it seems that we're represented as dead people.
Yeah, put that in.
Us in the stadium, we're dead people. And how that seems true, if you imagine yourself when you go to a concert or a theatre, you notice how you're always in the dark because you're dead. The stage is the theatre, the stage is life represented, and it's all this beginning of life, going in, dying, coming back, going in, dying, and it's constantly in our face with everything that we're doing in our everyday life. This recycling of us, this recycling constantly. And the representations are so mad. When I get that video out with all the name links and how the words are hidden, and again, what they've seemed to have done with the English language is reversed it. It's an invert. Everything's got this dual meaning. So it's like there's a shadow being put on top of it, a narrative being put. It seems to be with everything. This second self, this shadow version of it. And we're literally in chains with it because we just don't know the power of what we're saying and what we're doing. It's so, but it's starting to come. This is the beauty of what we're doing, Michelle. I'm seeing so much that I didn't before, and I'm hoping that we're showing people some things that they've never seen before. I never even considered what I've been finding lately, or what we found together, until obviously you do, and there's substantial evidence to prove that. But everything seems to be this link to death, this mockery as well, this recycling.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it is different information. It might be new information to a lot of people. And whether or not you want to believe in what I read from somebody in the know in the defense industry that sent this information to Adam that I read from, whether or not you want to believe that it is exactly what is playing out in our world today, targeting the youngest of the young. Where did all of the gender stuff come from, targeting babies and toddlers and young children in general, to get them to go through a surgery, a life-altering surgery, without their parents' knowledge in many cases, because that's being pushed too? Where did that come from? It makes no sense unless you put it into this kind of context, that it's a deliberate manipulation of our energies to harvest our energies and steal our souls. Because they don't have what we have. They need it to survive. So what better way to get it than set up this system where your victims know nothing about it, and then blame the victims when they call them out on them, or when people call them out on it, or they have a reaction or whatever. This whole system is built on blaming the victims.
Block our path to highness. I really believe if the religious people you imagine all that this is going on, all this inversion, all this sin, essentially, all this badness, and most people are partaking in some way or form, even though it's a kind of manipulation. We're still manipulating our way out of a highness, aren't we? Like, it seems like if there is a cycle, that's definitely part of it, who we are and what our soul energy is. And our soul energy is not only being taken, but it's corrupted. Most people out there have been corrupted there. And this is what you're highlighting at these ages. When I've done the MK Ultra research, it starts with inside the womb. Why they're still a baby? This torture is going on where they're in the mom's womb. It can start as early as that. It's disgusting, because it's the most purest Energy there absolutely is at one point, but then obviously, what if you want to train anything? What do you have to do? You have to start it early, don't you? You have to start it early. If you look at animals and pets, you start early.
And they're harvesting energy, and that, like you said, it's the purest energy. So that's what they want the most.
Purest, uncorrupted, pure, straight from life source. It is that.
And they rape, they steal, they torture babies. And that's out there. Not my area of focus, but certainly seeing references to it on social media and people being arrested for raping babies. That's why they're doing it. They're doing it for energy. Powerful people. And hopefully a lot more of that's fixing to come out so people know it. Right now, it's just kind of the alternative, which kind of gets into the work that you were doing. And I just want to make the point that the top photo of the portrait that was recently released of so-called King Charles was mirrored by somebody else.
Yeah.
I saw that before Chad started his series.
It inspired me. I saw that, and I always often think, is that the tip of the iceberg, or is it just one thing? And I thought to myself, well, let's try it with everything. So yeah, like it was the idea that came out, and that inspired me to do it with everything. I thought, you know what, that's a painting. Let me try it with a photo. A photo shouldn't be able to be manipulated, really. Obviously down to placement of prop and that it can be in that sense. Now I know with the mirroring, but God, yeah. Like
and it wasn't just the one. So this is the one you found. You found more than that.
Yeah,
I just picked one.
That's probably the best one, Michelle. Like, come on. There's no agenda here. I didn't expect to find anything. And at the same time, I look at it and I think what it is there's no real answer to the vastness of it. It's almost like, well, okay, it's in the sky, it's there, they're doing it. It's man-made, but it seems to be like imprinted in everything as well. I just get out of it. But I can't say there's a full understanding of it, but I've revealed that there's something definitely weird with that going on. I don't care. Mirroring shouldn't be. People, like, obviously, I've thought about, am I being, like, silly with this? Have I missed something? And I know, obviously, if you mirrored two, say, dots, it would obviously produce two things like two eyes. But a goat's head, a clear goat's head, it doesn't even look like a goat's head. I would definitely say 99.99% of people would agree that's a goat's head. And then you've got the other things as well, haven't you, around it? Look, it's like the way that the spectre or the sphere comes down that he's holding, it just puts it in almost a pinnacle, doesn't it? And it gives you that inverted triangle. But a lot of them are like that. They're dual, that they'll often show something in the background. And yeah, it's a really cool find. I haven't pushed any further with it because that's what I feel a madman would do.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring forward, you did that whole series, like, 5 parts, showing all the places that this shows up, but you're not the only one finding it. No, somebody else did this of the Obama painting and the same thing.
Again?
Okay.
And people might say painting, but no, it's in the photos, it's in everything.
Yep. Same thing. And I saw that on my social media feed separately from all of this. And, there it is. And then this was also on social media not too long ago. And so this went through October 9th. Around the time that we were doing the synchronicity thing, and this hit the area of Florida that my mom lives in, and she was in the hospital, which was a pretty safe place to be. Part of Florida that doesn't get hit, had never got hit like this before. It was supposed to be much, much worse. And I know for a fact that there was a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation to calm the storm down. and it hit Central Florida coast and it fell apart. So that part of Florida where my mom lives had quite a bit of flooding, and there was damage done. And I talked to some people and their house was saved and they had some downed trees. I talked to other people where the tree crashed through the house and their house was totally damaged. So it was kind of hit or miss as far as the severity of the impact, but overall it was supposed to be much worse. And so this was on my social media. I sent it to Chad. Same thing, this mirroring. So you can really see it up here in this top image of the mirror of the hurricane coming in across the Gulf of Mexico. But if you look at this image down here, it's much easier to see. I just flipped it.
Also, at the top, look at that top, it looks like two yellow eyes. Generally, what I was finding, the column, you might find 3 or 4 faces, and like each time you look at it, you get another one comes. But some are more prevalent, aren't they? Depending on it. It's just, but there's multiple. When I was doing it with Jess, she was looking at one, and I was looking at a different one. But
yeah. So this is everywhere, and we just wanted to, bring that together because it certainly looks to me that they inverted or reversed the hologram here. And they still use the original hologram, like what we saw with the soccer field or football field, that looks like a battery, that looks like the Squatter Man, to harvest our energy. So at this point, I want to go into what a hologram is, and for this part, provide general information about holographs and holograms. So what is holography as we know it? In the terms of what our conventional science tells us, holography is a photographic technique that records the light scattered from an object and then presents it in a way that appears three-dimensional. So this is what we're most familiar with, the general public. And that to create a holograph, you need an object or person that you want to record. A laser beam to be shined upon the object and the recording medium. A recording medium with the proper materials needed to help clarify the image, and a clear environment to enable the light beams to intersect. A laser beam is split into 2 identical beams and redirected by the use of mirrors. One of the split beams, the illumination beam or object beam, is directed at the object. Some of the light is reflected off the object onto the recording medium. The second beam, known as the reference beam, is directed onto the recording medium. This way, it doesn't conflict with any imagery that comes from the object beam and coordinates with it to create a more precise image in the hologram location. The 2 beams intersect and interfere with each other. The interference pattern is what is imprinted on the recording medium to recreate a virtual image for our eyes to see. The recording medium, where the lights converge, can be made up of various materials. So one of the most commonly used with hologram creation is photographic film with an added amount of light reactive grains. This enables the resolution to be higher for the 2 beams, making the image look much more realistic than using the silver halide material. So you're going to talk about a Saturn moon matrix? With the moon being what we're talking about here?
Like, I've tried to show people this kind of thing with movie, because movie works in a similar way, like with the way that the light's reflected. But it's a funny subject for most people, but the experience that you have of awakening sometimes can be this all-in-oneness, and the all-in-oneness shows you that everything is one. And what that kind of reveals is that everything's of this holographic nature, which is unseeable without certain factors involved, ununderstandable. But when we start looking into this, we see we can't imagine ourselves as that, can we? I don't, so, but there's definitely a holographic nature to what we're in, for me, and you know, that's what I seemed to connect to when I had my mini awakening. It was the connecting to that force that is all of that. It seemed, which was the same force which seems to be like connected to the entire so-called time and space. So within that, there is everything. You know, there's the past, there's the future, there's now. And it's like, it gives you that insight that when you do have those glimpses and synchronicities, you know why, because of this bigger field that you're in, you know, which is extensively endless. And not you, the person, never you, the person. It works through you, you know. Some of us are lucky enough to feel that, aren't we? To feel that working through us.
And I want to touch base on that whole idea, but most of us are familiar with the holograms on our credit cards. You can buy cool stickers. It's got medical applications and it's got military applications. But basically, what us peons get to know about is the top two up here. That's all we get to know. Oh, cool! Wow. There's a little bit more about the technology behind it. As far as the spiritual meaning of a hologram, the word hologram is derived from the ancient Greek words holos, meaning whole, and gramma, meaning writing or message. In holograms, complex messages are recorded holistically as multidimensional images of the entire light wave front that are emitted by the sender of the message. This kind of recording corresponds to our brain's holistic analog and multidimensional way of recording information. Therefore, the scientific community tends to speak more and more of a holographic brain and holographic consciousness, similar to the human brain's neuronal networks. In a hologram, each bit of information is connected to others as well. Therefore, the scientific community tends to speak more and more, like I said, of that holographic brain and consciousness. And so I think here we're getting into possible explanation for synchronicities as a mechanism.
Yeah.
There's a lot of implications within this information, but that's one tie-in from earlier in the presentation.
Activate your halos.
Yeah. I mean, they don't want us to know about that. I did learn how to do that once, but I forgot. But I did know. So here's a graphic showing how the holographic consciousness and brain might work that is very similar to the holographic model I showed previously of the photographic technique for creating a holograph. Similar to the human brain's neuronal networks, like I said, in a hologram, each bit of information is connected to others as well. Any thoughts on that, Chad, before I move on?
No, it always falls back to the eye, though, doesn't it? One of your favourite films as well. People. The eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry.
That's, I mean, it's all working together somehow.
It's far-reaching as well, you know, this eye, because not only have we got the visual of it, but the eye within the self, you know, the eye is so important. The I am of Jesus, you know, the two eyes, and then the two eyes, all the mason. I feel the understanding of that itself, just the eye, can bring great awareness, truth, love, not all stuff. Just understanding the variance of the eyes.
And I know you've done two really cool things around the eye. What you titled it, I can't remember, but really good stuff.
People. Like the weird ones looking through the
That is really cool. If you wanted to put in the end of that first one you did, where you have it go up to the macro.
Okay.
Or even just put that whole one in there. I thought that was really cool. And I told you that, and you said, I need to make a part 2. And you did.
You inspired that one. That one was for you, basically.
So, but yeah, I mean, when you talk about seeing the eye, that's what came to my mind. But to most of us, because of the indoctrination and the inversion of what were originally positive symbols, we see Big Brother, you know, the Illuminati, control, evil, you know, hidden hand, hidden eye, you know, the whole 9 yards. That's what's being imprinted on our consciousness, and not the original symbology and implications and what it actually means. So when you look at like the pyramid with the eye on top of it, we automatically think Novo Ordo New Order of the Ages and Big Brother. But my understanding from the original Moorish symbolism is that that's symbolizing, you know, the pineal gland and connection with our higher self, with the divine.
It's the same as your monad symbol at the start. It depends what way you want to look at it. But if you come out, all I see is an eye. It's a pupil and an eye. That's how my mind works. It shows different things, but that relates to so much for me because of the principle of the oneness. And then also looking through, like it's so strange when you look at it as an eyeball. It's a very dilated pupil though. He's definitely on something, that eye.
That's funny. I like how your brain works, Chad. You see things differently like I do. But I think you see things more differently than I do.
Maybe a little bit. Definitely a comic nature, you know.
So this brings me to morphogenetic fields and mass consciousness shifts. And, you know, for anybody that's fearful of the future, you know, with all this information coming out, this is our time. This is our deal.
Yeah, man. Goonies. This is our time.
This is why we're doing this. Because there's something else going on here with us. They couldn't just come in and do what they did. They had to have our consent. So they built this whole complex world and paradigm of inversion and mirrors so they could get our consent without us knowing about it.
Yeah.
And they knew this was going to happen. But they did it anyway because it was their only chance. What do I mean by that? Our brain, like a hologram, doesn't record individual digitalized data, but rather complex wave fields that are able to resonate and interact with each other and other wave fields in this example, such as with the morphogenetic fields of superordinate consciousness. So we're getting back into synchronicities and what might be responsible for them happening at all the way they do, and for some of us all the time, and especially those of us that are tuned into it and it's a thing. Morphogenetic fields are the non-physical blueprints that give birth to forms. They are equivalent to an electromagnetic field that carry information, not energy, and are available throughout time and space without any loss of intensity after they have been created. Morphogenetic fields are created by the patterns of physical forms. They help guide the formation of later similar systems where a newly forming system tunes into a previous system by having within it a seed that resonates with a similar seed in the earlier form. Morphogenetic fields can be used to describe how the human consciousness is shared.
And then linked to Morpheus, you know, like the night, the dreaming and the sleep, and that side of it also links, because sleep's a place where you get a lot of this information, you know, which links to all of these. And myself, you know, I've gone through that past life regression, which some people believe, some won't, and there's some serious stuff out there that you can link into. Whether people believe that it's fantasy, you make it up, it's hallucination, or it's real, whatever it is to you. For me, it felt real.
Yeah.
You know, you can definitely tap into a lot more of yourself. It's an ocean. It's an ocean, and I feel you can tap into other people's as well, which is quite weird. Experiencing through other people's consciousness.
When we start to wake up to all of this, we'll be unstoppable as a collective.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like I said, I know for a fact all the people that were praying and meditating when that hurricane was heading towards Central Florida as a Category 5 was supposed to be unreal in terms of the damage. And on my social media, I'm just seeing all this, you know, we're going to have this mass meditation at this time, you know, this time your time zone, you know, put your thoughts on calming the storm. And we were supposed to have a memorial family gathering in my dad's memory. He passed away in May, the following Sunday. And we canceled it on Monday. We're like, okay, we're not going to take any chances because a lot of people live in Florida. We're like, okay, we're not going to take any chances on this one. We're going to go ahead and cancel it because we don't know what's coming. And the very next day is when my mom fell and broke her shoulder. But we're not sorry that we canceled it, but we're very grateful that that storm fell apart. Because even with all the damage it did, it was supposed to be much, much worse.
Yeah.
And like I said before I started talking, I know for a fact that people were doing that they were meditating and praying, and it fell apart. We have that kind of ability, and you know, Creator through us.
You know, my friend said to me, Sly, she said, "What you got? Me and you do sports circuit." She says, "What if that you was to use a stadium in the UK? There's like 100,000 capacity for Man United. If you was to use a stadium for that purpose, what you just spoke about, Michelle, but not only that, a higher level. You're right. The power of that, of mass people coming together for positivity, for a direction, for a course." Would have ultimate effect. And I think what's happening at the moment is almost again an inversion of that. Our division looking down on that is like a rippled energy effect outwards. We carry it, we know all of that, but it's even more than that. It almost affects the grand field itself. And you've got to remember, like today in the Premier League, there was probably 8 games that played. You know what I mean? So it's not just one game when people think of one stadium. This is scattered across the country. But if those were turned into positivity centers where people gathered and like with the praying with Florida with the storm and did something similar, and then that was replicated through the TV because people watching that was doing it then again, man, we would be into a winner. Yep. It's already there, it's up there, so maybe we'll see that in a time to come, that type of...
It's already there, and people are becoming conscious of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've been conscious of it before. I've been connected with groups, mass meditation groups. The knowledge is out there. But the fact that more and more people are becoming aware of it.
This is what we need, isn't it?
The power of prayer, the power of meditation, the power of, you know, our minds coming together. We're not goners, guys, by a long shot. We're not, you know, putting this information out there to scare you. It can be pretty scary. But it's not meant for that. It's meant to get you seeing a different way, get you thinking a different way, and waking up to, you know, not only your inner abilities, but also our collective abilities. And somehow, some way, Chad and I are connected in the ether. You know, neither one of us can put anything to this in a logical way. But we know. And Chad knew before I knew.
And that way of no fear, like that different understanding of it, that not that it's a game, but to almost take it that way.
I think
You
it's
know.
just becoming conscious and mindful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are Tibetan
Yeah.
practices of watching the dying process, your own dying process, your own.
Yeah.
But they have meditation practices which take them into every moment and what's going on, what's really going on.
That's it. Yeah.
And that our memories and things combine. So we're watching a movie, but it's not real. It's like, a thought will come into your mind. We pay attention to it. We give it energy. And then next thing we know, another thought comes in and we're on to something else. And the meditation practices are like watching the thought come in. Okay, what feeling does that cause in my body? Does it cause contraction? Does it cause expansion?
Yeah.
Contraction where you're worrying and anxious, or expansion when you're joy. Oh, that made me feel really good. I like that thought. Oh no, I don't like that other thought. Oh, that's making me feel crappy.
Yes.
But these practices watch that, because we're creating what we're all seeing with the power of our minds. And we're all, we're sharing this experience here today.
But that as well, Michelle, on that note with that, it's important not to want the good or the bad. That was the practice that I learned with the East as well, is watching the thoughts and slowing them down. And that's the only way to slow them down. But it's neither good or bad. You're exactly right. And that's the only process of doing it. It's just simply as that. And identify it. The process of alchemy. We all know the process. It's the same principle, isn't it? Going inside of yourself and seeing how you behave, what makes you tick, as you say, and then fine tuning that, man. Not being reliant on so many things, and forward thinking all the time. What you said earlier really empowered, and I was going to say about the nowness. That's what creates so much fear as well. When you were just saying live in the moment, like with the moments, it's that. Here, there's no problem. Is that right now? Is there a problem? There's nothing. Is there right now? It's just is what it is, isn't it? In that we're powerful, we can still do everything. When we're worrying about something 2 weeks away, we're hindered for 2 weeks. Carry it, Bob.
And that kind of practice is hard.
Oh, yeah.
My mind can go a mile a minute. And to try to pull myself into a meditative space is very difficult.
And that's part of the game. That's why it's so fun. It's the ultimate test, isn't it? All of our life, we've been programmed for that to tick. That is so-called what has enabled us to survive in society. This tinkerer, this dual-sidedness, and we want to turn that off. It's almost inhuman, and it doesn't want to shut down. And it attacks and it attacks. And the more you try and turn it off, the more it'll attack. It's like anything, you know what I mean? So just so you know, if anyone's just starting this process, don't expect it to go a bit more faster when you're trying to turn it off, because it will fight you. It's like a mini demon inside you or something that's like, come on, then I need that. You're not leaving me. And that's his last fight, though. Remember that.
Right. And what brings that to mind? I mean, I've been wearing it for about 30 years or so, and I'm still not there in practice. But what got me there to look at the Eastern meditation was I was having a problem with anxiety and thoughts bouncing around in my head. And I was working as a geriatric social worker, and I was a really good social worker, but I had to deal with this stuff every day, where I would just go home and I would be like, how do I have a better quality of moment? And I found a book, I want to say it was at the library, about Vipassana meditation. And it was exactly the meditation I just described, where you watch each thought and follow your breathing. And, on the in-breath, you focus on like your cheek. What do you feel there? Out breath, in and out, and follow your thoughts. I needed to calm myself down, and that helped. And it was the only thing that helped.
Yeah.
Am I a practitioner? No. Do I understand it? Yes. I understand it very well. And in a pinch, I can get there. You know, and another thing is, you know, getting into our hearts. And I think I might be talking about this in here somewhere. So I'm going to go on, but there's practices that really do help calm everything down. What's fear? It's, you know, it's fear of things that imagine things. It comes from imagination. When we get into fear and anxiety, we're thinking ahead or thinking back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not thinking moment. And chances are we're spending our energy needlessly.
Yeah.
And that if something weird does happen, it's not something we were thinking about. I've had that experience too. So I'm going to move into mass consciousness shifts. And the morphogenetic fields play the main role in the idea that humanity at one point in time will go through a dramatic collective shift in consciousness. And I believe we're living in that time now. A shift that will happen when the critical mass for a shift is reached, or in other words, when a certain number of spiritually awakened individuals are reached. Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force, in which he defined a range of values that correspond to levels of consciousness, which include well-recognized attitudes and emotions. And he incorporated this into a map of consciousness. He postulated that emotions are actually levels of energy, one greater than the other. So the lower half of the scale can be thought of as force emotions, like struggle, and the upper half of the scale as emotions of true power, the ability to act creatively. He also postulates that with each progressive rise in the level of consciousness, the frequency or vibration of collective energy increases as a whole. Thus, people living in the energy of higher consciousness radiate a beneficial and healing effect on the world. He said that each person functioning in higher emotions of consciousness raises the collective consciousness as a whole in such a manner that not every human needs to be functioning in higher consciousness for this collective shift in consciousness. Thus, enough of humanity, not all, are needed for this to take place.
Weighting scales. Yep.
So everybody doing any kind of work, any kind of spiritual work, not necessarily the meditative practice I was just saying I don't do very well, but every decision you make, you know, what's the intent, you know, just working from a place of positive intent and awareness, not hurting anybody. You know, we make those choices every day about what we do. I'm going to have the apple or the ice cream.
Yeah, it's like I was going to do a video about this, Michelle. We're in traffic. It's everything, isn't it? We're in traffic. Somebody or our car breaks down. What do? Do we hit the steering wheel and shout at our missus and shout at the kids in the back and start swearing and get out and or do we just pick up the phone and call the AA? And which is the better reaction? What vibrations are going to have better found roots? I think it's the latter one, isn't it? By controlling ourselves, and that happens with everything. You know, you're in the traffic and you let somebody out, and then you find they'll let somebody out, and there's this constant spread of vibration and frequency. I went to a party last night. I took my nan. I thought, I'm going to take nan, you know, it's risky. It was my mate's engaged. I took nan. She got on the dance. So as soon as we got there, no beer or nothing, just got on the dance floor, and she changed the vibration of the whole party with her vibration of love and dancing. She was amazing. She made the night for me, I swear. But you know, it's with everything, isn't it? It's beautiful. I love it. And with this as well, the red and the blue, I often see this in the chakra and different thing, and I often think that with the red and the blue, they try to keep us between the red and the blue. When we think about what that means, is we never reach to our fullest potential. We never like touch the unseen. We'd have no awareness of the pureness and consciousness and God to say that that's kept away from us almost because of being kept between the red and the blue. The lower vibrations, you know, even the blue, though it's high, it still isn't where we should be going, isn't it? You know, I feel our potential's almost been capped between 2 points.
That's a really good observation, and that's exactly what they've done. They've kept us distracted. The whole system we're in, the economic system, you know, have to work to live, to pay our rent, to buy our food. You know, the whole system has been set up to keep us down, you know, with the alcohol and the cigarettes and the junk food and, you know, all the things that we're conditioned to want that are bad for us. You know, we're actually paying them for our own poisoning and destruction. Lots of money.
Yeah.
Movies too.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, that we're paying them for it? You know, it's the maddest reverse and con that you can ever think of. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they set the system up good for them, and we don't even know it.
You know, in regards to this as well, Michelle, like you could look at it as the Egyptian understanding as well, isn't it? When they used to speak about weight, like it's just you can look at it as simple as frequency, can't you? Like the heaviness, as what you were just saying, you know, all these things that they feed us to keep us down. It's literal down. It not only gives us weight, as the Egyptians would say, weigh the heart. It lowers this frequency. Lightness would be a high frequency, like a feather, you know, like so the feather versus the lead. Sorry, just because this is everything's cross-referenced, as you know, isn't it? All mythology, everything. It seems it's just represented in another way.
Yeah, that's why this presentation kept growing and growing. It's like,
yeah,
Dad, I need some time to build this. Can we wait? I got all this other stuff I want to pull in. That's why. It's all connected.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that the slides I'm going through on holograms, and this information about morphogenic fields and consciousness, I had sitting in a folder. I did this work years ago, and then all of a sudden, and this is where my work gets intuitive, I started putting this together with our beginning on synchronicity, and I'm like, you know, I started seeing things like I put this in here and here and here, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, you know, but it fits. And it flows. And this is my best foot forward on how this place works and what I think happened here. and we are spiritual beings. The original humans and the ancient humans knew this. They knew why they were here, which was this union with our higher selves, the blue and the purple. That's what we were doing here. And anything else they want to tell us about that is just a flat out lie, because that's what they want us to think, that we were warlike and bloodthirsty killers. They are. We're not. We can be manipulated and turned into the worst versions of ourselves, which is their intent with this anyway. But, you know, we are holograms of the Creator. Bottom line.
Bottom line. Always remember your power.
Just let that sit in for a minute. Don't surrender to fear. There's a lot of fear out there. They've done their very best to condition us in fear. Just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the 100th monkey effect, which I learned about years ago. So this is a companion concept to Dr. Hawkins' work on power versus force. And this is the concept that once a critical number of members copy a behavior or follow an idea, it will be taken on by all en masse automatically. And it is based on the results of a study of macaque monkeys done by Japanese scientists starting in 1952. And the scientists left food such as sweet potatoes in open areas for macaques on islands like Japan's Koshima Island. As a result of this, several monkeys developed innovative forms of behavior. By 1953, one of the macaques discovered that sand and grit could be removed from the sweet potatoes by washing them in water, and between 1953 and 1958, the potato washing habit spread gradually. By 1958, a critical number of macaques had learned the behavior, and all of them on the island had copied the behavior, and macaques on other Japanese islands as well. I had a lot more I could go into, but this seemed to be a good place to stop.
It's a good end because it shows us two things, doesn't it? It shows us quite a few things. It shows us what you were saying about the tip. You know, it only needs so many of us, which is slowly getting to a point where that point will shift and the behaviors will change. That's a positive way I feel looking at it. But it also shows the opposite side to it, of how easily it is for us to be programmed and how one thing's led on to another of us all potentially imitating behavior. Which is going to take something to get us out of that, which we're experiencing now, isn't it? That was my little look at it anyway, but it's very unique. And it almost relates to, because there's that Joker film that's just come out, isn't there? It got loads of bad ratings. Flux delay. It's a front for a shared psychosis, and it just got me thinking. So I did a bit of research into it, and it's the same kind of principle with enough people. It kind of a psychosis can incur of everyone believing something. And you know what it made me think of, which is part of the deeper conversation, I hashtag this first, is when we first got told our information about absolutely everything. And I don't want to say particular things, but all of the information, it's all stemmed from that first original information. So we could find ourselves in a potential like flux delay now, like a shared psychosis that we're in, where although there's many different psychoses within it, we're in a higher psychosis. And because we don't actually know the truth of what we're in, that's what I mean by the shared psychosis, because it's almost we've had to piece together what we know, and we followed what other people have said and added to that. It's kind of strange, and I didn't want to do it because it's kind of negative, calling people psychos, basically, but it's not in a negative way. It's like there's that story of Caleb Gilbram when he says about the Mad King, and everyone drinks from the well, they get poisoned, they all turn crazy. The king isn't crazy, but he goes down to the well and drinks in the end because they're all going to kill him. So rather than being killed, he joins in with the psychosis, and it's almost a metaphor for a society of that we've all gone a bit mad.
That's been manipulated and created.
Yeah,
by the
this is it.
Controllers.
Yes, which is it's the poison in the well. It's been done. It's man-made. That's what the poem shows. It's not just something that came along. They show it as the witch coming and putting the poison in the well. It's a man-made action which creates this psychosis.
Where in spite of everything they've done to us, people are waking up more and more every day and not drinking from the well and realizing we have different choices.
Yes.
This does not have to be our future. I don't want that future. That's not a future I want to be part of. I want the future of abundance and love and kindness and caring and compassion that I know we are very capable of. It's playing out in Appalachia now. The people are stepping in to do things that government agencies are supposed to do that aren't. Government officials. People are freezing and starving and dying, and the government's turning a blind eye. Oh, no, no. Can't live in that tiny house that the Amish built. It doesn't meet code. 100 tiny houses that people can't live in. And the Amish built for them specifically. You know, so it's the clash between the juggernaut of government and people coming in from the ground up, the grassroots, to help each other. That's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's who we are. Helping our neighbor through catastrophe. You know, doesn't matter what happens to us. I'm going to go out and volunteer my time and go to the mountains of North Carolina and help these people that have nothing right now because it was all washed away.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But it's like it's like where the rubber meets the road with the times that we're living in, and people rising, the phoenix rising after the horrors we know that the controllers have inflicted on us, all of us, the traumas and the psychoses and the addictions and the misinformation and the miseducation and the outright lies. But that's, I think, what we're doing here, showing people, okay, there's another way you can look at this. And this is why, and this is how.
I'm straight. And pulling us back together, you know. That's why I love my nan and my granddad so much. It was not just what they've done for me; it's their morals and things that they seem to once exist, glimpses of anyway, fragments of that community, of that neighborhood, of that helping people. You know, I'm not saying it was perfect, never say that, but it doesn't exist now because no one speaks to the neighbors, no one helps anyone. It's all about the self. We'd rather support celebrities than help your family. You know, that's the way the world is now, but we've been taught this again. But there's a lot of people seeing it. It's like, oh, what? And this is it, isn't it? It's like the breaking of a spell. You've been going around slapping drunk people, Michelle, waking them up, basically, helping them get back to soberness, seeing clearly.
That's why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stop. You know, and we may not all be saying things. I mean, think about how bad it is. All the things that we've learned in school about everything, we can throw out the window. New information is bubbling from the ground up. You know, random YouTubers deciding to blog or make videos, and all of a sudden there's all this information, and we don't all say the same thing. Mm-hmm. But people are so hungry for real information or different information other than what we're being taught, that is continually being exposed as lies. It shouldn't be coming from the bottom up. It should never have come from the bottom up. I'm a geriatric social worker by degree. You're a human service worker, criminal psychology major by degree. But we had a whole life experience that prepared us for doing this today. All my interest, all the things I was interested in, you know, hidden history and all the stuff I could get my hands on. You know, like I said, being in the right place at the right time with the right information has been the story of my life. Without which I wouldn't be here today. It would not be possible. I should not know any of this stuff. Based on being born into a middle-class family in suburban Washington, D.C., parents not open to, you know, not awake to any of this stuff, didn't have any of this fairly, you know, conventional upbringing. But I shouldn't know it.
I don't think it exists, though. You know, I think you'd find it in the most coolest and rarest places, like say you where you wouldn't expect it. That's where it seems to prosper the most. I don't know how. It needs that. It's almost it needs that, or it wants that, because it needs grit. It needs grit, it needs fight, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's like Rocky. What Rocky learnt me as a kid, and I know people don't like Rocky learnt me that you need that grit, you need that fight, you need to look into yourself. And it's like in Rocky 3, he gets all rich and he uses this gym and he loses his title because he's lost his grit, he's lost the eye of the tiger, he's lost his fight. With that can get you anything in the world, you know, that heart. Oh yeah. It can get you the best girl, the best man, or you can get you what you want, like anything in this world, the heart can get you.
You know, and then there's this group of us that have self-selected on YouTube and wherever else, you know. I'd never made a video before. You never made a video before when you started.
No.
But it was like we needed to get this information that we had inside of us out somehow. And like I said, no end in sight. It only gets stranger from here. So we've talked about this before, I think, with you and with Adam. It's like there's some kind of connection with the ley lines going on here that's quite unconscious, and there's a communication going on.
Yeah.
Because I've lived on ley lines that I didn't know about until I started doing my own research. I was actually lived in places that were significant. There's a consciousness there.
Being pulled to them, aren't we? Almost like it's a pulling. It's there. It's like our energy channel routes, and we've traveled them all of our lives, or we've encountered them, and it's crap. Yeah, Adam proved that with me as well. He helped me find my one, like the church I was born at's on a ley line, and the high school I went at's on the same one. And he's got a lot. That's where our connection is, because once you understand the ley lines and the connection to that, and once we've connected to those, or we are connected to them, all of them, we're connected. There's no other route around. There's no other. You know what I mean? We're connected, and it's easy to see how and why. You know, feel each other. We are each other, like, you know.
And I'm 30 years older and American, and didn't know you until you reached out to me. Say, hey, I saw one of your videos. We need to talk. You know, it's, but yeah, I mean, clearly there's something more. And individually and together, we can reach more people with this information, and hopefully it'll just keep getting out there and growing. Because it's needed. It's a different way of looking at things that needed. And like I said, you may not like our conclusions, or I don't like our I wish they weren't our conclusions, to be quite honest. I wish we didn't have to come to conclusions like this. I wish our world was completely different.
Yeah.
But something has to explain the absolute insanity of what's taking place here. And this kind of like I said, I would at least like it to be considered.
Well, I feel what you speak about in general is well backed, well evidenced, well put together, well structured. And what we spoke about tonight, the synchronicities and the morphogenic fields and how everything's connected, it's so far reaching that everyone has encountered it in some way, even on a paranormal, supernormal level. When you start getting, so it's the same thing, isn't it? Past lives and all of this, and it's the same thing. Cities and all of that, it's connected to the same thing. It is that thing. So everyone has encountered it. There's different names for it, we know that, but everyone feels it. It's the force, isn't it? This is where Star Wars music needs to come in.
You know, it's all the stuff that we've taught to discount.
Yeah.
To think is crazy.
Yeah.
Our sixth sense.
Yeah, this is it.
You know, removing the fifth element from the elements. So ether was taken out deliberately. The sixth sense has been ridiculed. We've been given fluoridated water, you know, poisons to keep our third eye closed. Rituals probably keep our third eye closed. I had a friend of mine, very gifted with this kind of thing, who realized that the act of doing this, like for I'm not Catholic, but she was born in a Catholic family, and her granddaughter, when her granddaughter was born, she was there, and she realized that the priest was closing her third eye in the ritual that was done. And so my friend went in and she reversed it right after that happened. But it's everywhere to shut down these extrasensory perceptions and abilities that we have.
Mm-hmm. Everywhere. Food, water, yeah, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. But it's there, and it can be reconnected to. You are connected to it. We're all connected to it in varying degrees. I just believe it just varies. I don't feel like they can snap the connection, like slice it. It's more of a reducing of it. You know what I mean? It's more of a reducing, so they don't even feel it's there. But then occasionally there'll be a synchronicity or something, but it's so small. That's why it's weak and it's vulnerable.
Right, absolutely.
It's about rebuilding that back up, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I don't see things, I don't hear things, but my intuition is on overdrive. That's another third eye kind of thing. But I would have never thought of it that way.
Yes.
I still have a hard time thinking of it that way. But it's part of it.
100%. Michelle, as I say, it's all in different varying ways. People that are gifted in any way, for me, are connected to this. Connected to that.
It wants to get out. It wants to come back out so bad. And it is through all of us and others that are touched by what all of us are doing in a positive way, and actually see, you know, reaching those with eyes to see and ears to hear.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's all I really want from this, is to reach people with eyes to see and ears to hear.
Yeah. That's it. It's not an overall thing, is it? It's not a 100% completion type of task. It's enough.
Yeah. And I just want to say there's no one right answer.
No.
We're all guided differently and guided in different ways with different gifts. If you're looking for a one size fits all, it doesn't exist. And we want that. We want that. People want that.
Yes. This is it. This is it. And another fact, everything is so interlinked. It's very hard to do that, like with the religions and the mythologies, because there's Greek, because there's Sumerian, because there's Egyptian, because there's so many gods. People will be arguing over, and because they seem different, and sometimes it's, you know, so it's very hard. There's sometimes everything's right. I've saw people speak about something in one way and someone else speak and they're all right, but it's because the way they're explaining it, or they're talking about a particular mythology or religion or culture or following. It's looking past the mask, isn't it? It's looking past the. Michelle's saying the same stuff as me, but in a different way.
In a different way. That's the beauty of it. We're not the same.
Yeah.
At all.
No. If that's the beauty, you know. It's like me and my partner Jess. We're completely opposite, but that's what helps us. I couldn't have her thinking of what I think. Bloody hell, we wouldn't speak. I need her to have, you know, to be kind of normal, like, you know, and have a, you know, and think like an average person, so I don't go too far down the rabbit hole and things. We need balance, you know. She's good in different things, like you're good in your research and the way you pull things together in your structure, where I'm a lot more creative, like not more creative, but you know,
I agree.
It's philosophy, it's arty,
you're amazing.
It's patterns which need structure, needs you know what I mean? So chaotic order. Beautiful. That's what that would be.
In a good way.
Giving order to my chaos. Yes,
It's
definitely.
it's like synchronicity is pulling the threads together. And
This is
that's
it,
where
yeah.
our work connects and interfaces.
Yeah.
You know, you may say, hey, you know, take a look at this video I just did and send me this video and not publish it, and I've got it filed away. And then you send me an email and you say, I had this dream, you know, about this device and, you know, people looking at things differently. And I'm like, you already did it, my friend. Remember that Spiderwick video you sent me? You know, and I don't think you were thinking of that when you wrote me about the dream. But I could, you know, I could step back in this synchronistic co-creative partnership and say, you've already addressed that. It's really good. Check it out.
Isn't that beautiful though? And what you say, like how you've already done all this work, and you can just go back. Something guides you to hop back through it, and before you know it, you've got this brand new video with all this new information. It just works so well. You know that last video that I put out, that one about the sports circuit, it was like 6 ones together. That was last minute putting all that together. But then when I look back, it was almost a realization that I was doing the 6 pieces for this bigger piece, but I didn't know I was doing it for this bigger piece at the time. But it was for that. We just don't know, do we? What we want, and you just, wow, all that, and you must do it. You look and you're like, oh, I've got it all here. I've got it all. Let me just. I've been working on that for the last how many years? I'll just put it together.
Yeah. Brilliant. Same thing. You know, I've already done the work.
Reuse, brilliant.
But I'm doing new work. I'm looking at my old work, and I'm adding all this new stuff to it because I've grown.
This
in the in-between, you know, when I did it 5 years ago and what I'm doing now, it's like, holy crap. I need to add this and this and this and this, and it takes me twice as long, you know, or, you know, I thought, oh, I can just slap these together in piecing these things together. The research I do, I'll have a piece of information. I'll just sit there and look at it. It's like, okay, I know you're important, but I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how to explain you, or there's not enough information to put it into context. And it's really a challenge to put things together in a comprehensible way. And I do my best.
You do amazing. But what would you say to people that solves that? Is it time? Is it like, for me, I've always found when it's not right, it's not right. And then I put it to the side. And then if that's a month or a year later, something comes and it's like, right, you're right now. Yeah. Is that the same for you? Or is it a different
exactly
type
right.
of...
I'm working on something now that's like that. I'm working on something now that's exactly like that. And now's the perfect time. The perfect circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, people send me pictures and things, and I put them in a file, and I'm going to get on them. They're on my to-do list. And I had a lady send me some pictures of where she lives in the Bronx in New York about 1.5 years ago. And then I've got somebody that just sent me pictures that were taken in Sydney on a recent trip. And they're the perfect combination.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. So
you've got the next piece.
You know, I'm working on that. And you know, just things that are coming forward from, you know, people that I work with, team members like yourself and others that I work with. You know, it's like it takes all of us to do this. And you know, just folks starting to do their own research that are watching.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, all of us doing that is coming out and is very important. Once you see what's actually there in your neighborhood, in your very literal neighborhood where your house is, your community, in your state, in your country. It's all connected. It's all the same. No matter where you are on Earth. The same things are there. Exactly the same things.
Michelle, I love you. I think it's really important what we're doing. And just to further highlight that, the reason why I really believe it is important in the team is because there's so many things that show you that there's so many ways of looking at things. For instance, there's the different senses. We look at the chakras and the different colors. People learn in different ways and people have different perspectives, just like the different cultures of the world or the different races. So having different people showing different ways at the same thing is going to open up the door to everything. I feel it needs that. I feel there isn't, as you say, there's never a one size fits all. So there isn't like this almost one thing one person we need. If anything, that holds together by the combination of, say, rainbow colors in a different person representing, or people, should I say, representing those which empower it entirely as one. And I'm so with you with that. Like, as you say, when you say Adam and everyone else you work with, it's important for so many people because it's like they all add to that color. I don't know what you are, but let's just say you're purple. You're adding to purple. You know, exactly. I'm adding to green. You know, I'm doing, and that's my role. I'm adding to the green. You're adding to the purple. Boom, boom, boom. Let's all keep adding to our own individual things. Let's not fight about that you're purple and I'm green. Let me see that you're purple and clap you. Thank you, Michelle, for what you do for purple. Because entirely that represents the whole of it, doesn't it? You know, in essence, it's for all of it. It's not just for purple. It's a weird analogy, but I think it works.
Right. Because keep in mind that the controllers took everything of truth and importance out of our world and replaced it with garbage. Yeah. So their goal is to keep us in the dark and feed us garbage. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones that benefit from arguments and disagreements on anything. Yeah. Just the fact that we're disagreeing and arguing and holding on to our rigid belief systems gives them energy. It gives them loosh that they feed on. That's not the direction. The only way out is up.
That's why I thank you. I love you. Keep doing it, man. You're empowering the rest of us. And I do think it's a people's thing. So everyone watching this, we all play a part in this, don't we, Michelle? Everyone is a vibration and is added to other vibrations. Every action and decision that you undertake. Remember, you know, when you go back to those principles, sorry, before still in the mind and thing, there's got to be a pause. And often these days, we're all learning and growing. No one's perfect. But before we react, we do have to think of what that reaction is going to bring. And it's hard sometimes, but to spread love and positivity rather than fear and hate. That's all we can ever do.
Yep.
America's a massive part. You're a massive part to this, I feel, Michelle. America's huge. If you look at that chakra system, you've got the root there, the red. It's like, if you just want to base it on that, you were huge to this. This is where it all stems from. The materialism.
Yeah.
You're key to that.
Yep. The culture that spread worldwide.
It's spread worldwide. That has, and it's for me, that's the biggest influence of it. Like, it's the daddy of the world, isn't it? So you've got the biggest task, then in the biggest area, and almost the biggest role to play with that, because it's the dragon, it's the serpent at the bottom.
And the only other thing I would say is that if what I'm doing wasn't coming from inside me and my own insights and my own direction and my own guidance, I wouldn't be doing it.
Mm-mm.
Every day I do something on it, unless something comes up, other commitments, but that's very, very rare. I would not put the time, energy, and effort into doing what I do if it wasn't coming from inside me. That's the bottom line. It's coming from deep within.
Yeah.
It's not coming
Yeah.
from anything else or anybody else. And if it was, I couldn't do it.
No.
I'll share something real quick. Before I started blogging, this is a couple years before I started blogging, and I was like, I've got all this information. What do I do with it? And I actually had a reading from somebody, and what she got from it was blog. What am I going to blog about? I don't know. That was 2 years before I started. You were talking about timing. I had to be at the right time with the right realization to be able to get it started. And then I've got copious amounts of information in me yet. So when that suggestion was made to me, it was like, I don't blog. Considering the entirety of what we talked about today and what happened here, no human being deserves what has happened here.
No.
And that was what they planned for all of us. Nobody.
We're starting to glitch, but can I just say one thing? When you were told to blog, I heard the Bob Marley song play Small Axe in my head. Now, the philosophy behind Small Axe and Bob Marley, you probably know it. He's taking down, and it's funny because it's a tree. He's taking down a tree, but the tree represents the powers to be. Blog is to log, to log. To log is to chop tree stuff that you found now. But what you're doing, you're chopping down the tree. Not our trees, not the trees we love. You're chopping down the tree that has been made. Love it. Words are so powerful, and you are a chopper, my woman. Chopper.
Yeah, I mean, we need that different future. We don't need a dystopian future. We need a future of love and abundance.
Yes.
That is our birthright.
Yes. And for that, we need to change things, which is the analogy of chopping down the tree in it. That's all it is. Which is an odd analogy, but yeah, still the analogy. I always understood the song. I like trees. Leave trees alone, all right? Philosophy is philosophy.
Yeah. Stop it with the cruelty and the violence and the lies.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get past that. And we'll do it together. Not just you and I.
Words are strong, Michelle. Knowledge is stronger. You know. And the fight is that now. The fight is this, and this is what you've been doing. You show it. It's knowledge and wisdom. It's still fighting. It's just not with fists and swords and guns. We don't condone that. We never empower that.
Yeah,
Fight
I'd
with
be
our
in trouble
mind.
if that was the case.
No, I won't.
This is my
Sorry.
activism.
Yes, this is it.
I'm a cyber activist.
I love it. I love it. Me too.
Well, Chad, I'm really glad that you made this connection possible and continue. And I know we'll keep working together and working with our other people like Adam. And he's making an amazing contribution on his own. And we'll get back with him again soon.
And everyone else watching, keep doing your thing as well, even if it's opening a door for someone or being nice to people. And if we want the world to change, it's down to small actions sometimes, simple things.
Yeah.
I send you all my love and light to you and your family, because it's hard, especially when people don't act accordingly.
Thanks so much for your light, Chad. Much needed.
Love and light. I love you, Michelle. Take care.
Love and light, Chad. Enjoy the rest of your evening.